Alright, so as some of you may know, it's very hard for there to be any movie out there that I think is worth my time. So I don't really watch that many movies. And usually when I do watch a movie, I'm very disappointed. I'm usually very drawn to movies that have some type of meaning, some deep meaning. And I do have a movie recommendation today that I do highly recommend for people to watch, mainly because it can get you to think and basically possibly get you to grow spiritually and better yourself and understand love and understand the dynamics of relationships in modern society, and how to improve upon your relations with other human beings. So the name of this movie is called Her, H-E-R, just Her, and it's a recent movie. I think it's still in the theaters right now, actually, and I came across the movie, and the movie, I do highly recommend it. Now, the people that want to watch the movie and they don't want any spoilers, maybe you don't want to watch my review, but the purpose of my review is to basically analyze the movie. So, analyzing the movie, I'm gonna automatically spoil, give some spoilers, so, but basically, the movie is about love. Shh. It's about love, it's about relationships, and it's about this man who basically, he's going through a very depressing time period in his life. He's separated and he's on the verge of getting divorced, and the woman that he was with, there was a lot of love. He was in love with his former wife. They didn't formally divorce, but they were separated, and he has a lot of flashbacks about his past relationships, about his past relationship with her, and they're good memories. He had a lot of love for her, but something happened where things turned sour, and then they ended up separating, and he's going through a lot of depression. He doesn't have too many friends, and he's just basically moping around during the whole movie, just very sad and depressed. So he found it very difficult to connect with anybody else. So what he ended up doing is, this movie's taking place in the future of current times. Maybe not so far distant from the future right now, because the technology that they presented within the movie is something that definitely looks like could possibly be technology within the next 10 or 20 years. You know what I mean? This technology is not like over the edge. I mean, basically, the movie is presenting like a technology that could be maybe 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And the technology they have in there is basically taking it a step further than what we are used to right now. Because right now, we got the text messaging, we got the cell phone everywhere we go, we got the Facebook, everybody's all over their cell phones. But in that movie, the technology is basically, he has this earpiece, and he just basically, it talks to him, it tells him, like, reads him his emails, and basically there's this technology that they came out with called OS, which is like an operating system, basically being like replacing a friend, basically, replacing a friend, or potentially even replacing a lover. So this operating system is so advanced that it's tailored and customized for you. So basically this operating system speaks to you through this earpiece, and it's like a human being. It's like speaking to a real human being, over the telephone or through this earpiece, and this person, it seems as if they're really living, but they're not. They're just a computer, you know. So he's basically communicating with this operating system because he's lonely, and he's like trying to, you know, get over his past relationship. And what ends up happening is he falls in love with this operating system, to the point where he ends up even like masturbating to her voice at night, and then she's like masturbating to him or whatever. And then people could look at that and be like, oh my god, you know, that's so like weird and funny, and they laugh at it. But really, I don't think it's that weird and funny compared to what people do nowadays with pornography. I mean, people are looking at a computer screen with looking at images, and then they are masturbating to those images. People are even utilizing webcams and having people on a webcam and they masturbate to the webcam. Now that's like more of a personalized thing where the person's speaking to you and then you can visually see the person and then you masturbate to it. So it's not too different than that. It's not too different than the people that are in the text messaging or what they used to have, the AOL, you know, America Online or whatever, where people would just communicate through typing and then they would like get off on each other just by the text messaging. Okay, so, and then there's such a thing as the phone sex, which is like the people just call in these hotlines and then they get off on the phone. So it's not too different than that. You know, it's not too different at all. You know, and the people who, you know, you might have a video of a porn star that died like 50 years ago and you still watch the video and you still get off on the video. That person's dead already, so you're basically like getting off on something that doesn't even exist. And somebody that doesn't even exist. You're getting off on technology. So that's what happened with that, and basically the movie's also showing like a lot of times where people, you know, so many people have this operating system a part of their lives that everywhere he goes, you know, he's in the train, you know, he's walking around out there in public and everybody's just talking to themselves. They're just like talking to themselves. They're not even like talking to the people around them. They're not talking to other live human beings. Everybody's talking to themselves, essentially just talking to this operating system. And people, you know, you might look at the movie and be like, well, that's very awkward and weird, and why would people do that? But it's not too different than what's really going on right now as far as people like having these cell phones and text messaging each other and constantly on the internet and constantly talking on the phone. They're not aware of their surroundings. You know, people that go to the you know, they go on the train and they're text messaging, they're on the internet, they're talking on the phone. They're not engaged with the, you know, with the real reality of what's around them at that moment. So it's not too different than that. You know, and I see this movie is almost like showing where our society in a way is heading towards. Is like people are being like attached and almost falling in love with technology more than they are human beings. Technology is something that we could control. You know, like people could fall in love, you know, many people do, they fall in love with their cars because they can control the car. They fall in love with technology and pornography and computers because they can control that technology. You know, but with human beings, there's not so much of that control. You know, it's like a relation that you have with another human being, and that makes it difficult, and it's hard for people to kind of relate to human beings. So sometimes they turn away from humans and they seek technology to fulfill that void that they feel that is missing inside. So I see that movie is almost indicating that. And basically also showed him like dating this woman that was, you know, a good looking woman. He was dating this woman, but then he just couldn't even like open himself up to her. You know, he was closed off to her, and you know, he just didn't really want to be honest with her. And then she just basically thought he was weird and just left him. And then he just goes back to his operating system and opens up to his operating system. You know, and you know, that's showing like how people, you know, Like for example, people that are just indoors, like masturbating to pornography all day, never putting any effort to really engage and be, communicate with a real woman, and the problems with that. Or people that are just like so engaged with just playing video games every day, all day, and they don't relate to other humans. They don't try to meet women, date women. They don't try to hang out with friends, on a direct basis. They don't go and exercise with their friends or anything. They're just inside, stuck in technology, stuck in the video games and stuck in the movies. So that was some things that happened, and then what ended up happening is he basically just falls in love with this technology, and he becomes so attached to this technology that she goes down for like she ends up leaving for like just maybe a few minutes, and he went through an anxiety attack, and he was like barely could breathe because he was so attached to this technology. And also it showed how like he was possessive and jealous over this technology. Like he felt that this technology, this operating system was for him only. But then it turned out that she ended up communicating with other people as well, and then he couldn't handle that. It just shows like how human beings, they become very possessive and jealous and controlling when they get attached to certain people or certain things. They don't want to basically share. They don't want to, they become very possessive and attached, and became like a very unhealthy life for him, where he just was living for this technology. His only happiness was through this operating system that wasn't even a human being. And another thing that I see that was relatable is just kind of like people be like, oh, how could he fall in love with this operating system? Well, I see people also, they fall in love with animals and dogs, for example. A lot of people fall in love with dogs, and they can't even fall in love with a human being, but they fall in love with a dog because a dog is more easily controlled. Like a dog will be loyal if you force him to be loyal. A dog listens to the master. A dog will eat when you allow him to eat, and he'll go to the bathroom when you allow him to go to the bathroom. You have control over a dog. He becomes your animal, your pet. And essentially human beings, they want to turn other humans into animals and pets where they can control. But human beings cannot be controlled in that way. Human beings are dynamic, and they change and they grow and they evolve. But animals, they're just kind of stuck at just a certain level. And people, they feel more trust and to fall in love with the dog than the human being, because they feel that there's less risk of them being hurt. But of course, when the dog passes away from death, they're gonna have to go through those the feelings and the hardships of separation. But it's not really that they're gonna be sexually connected to a dog, where they have to feel like they have to be sexually possessive to a dog. So there's a lot of challenges presented when you connect with a human being that a lot of human beings run from. And connecting with a real human being, it automatically there's a risk. There's gonna be the feelings of love and separation, and just the emotions and the hardships of the difficulties. And a lot of people, they don't want to deal with that, and they just want to turn to technology. No matter, they turn to video games, they turn to vehicles and cars, and movies and pornography and all sorts of technology to run away from the connection with other live human beings. Another thing that I also was thinking about that it made me see is that people tend to pay a lot of attention to people that are dead, and in a way that is another way of like not connecting with live human beings. You know, like people are so, for example, so attached to people like Bruce Lee, who died like over 40 years ago, but then they forget about the people that are here right now. They just keep focusing on the people that are already dead, which is really, really silly. You know what I mean? If you think about it. You know, and in the movie it's kind of like indicating that, where people, they're not even like focused on the people that are right in front of their face that they could connect with, but they're focusing on an operating system that's not even real. You know, it's just technology. So rather than talking with a friend directly, you know, right in front of your face, they're talking to somebody, I mean, to a computer. You know, and I know that we experience it a lot of times when we have, you know, when we may invite friends or family over, and instead of like spending time with you, they're like chatting away on the phone, or they're text messaging somebody, or they're so involved with the technology that they're not even relating with you at that moment. And I see that that's what it's a common thing amongst humans, is to just basically be attached and fall in love with technology and people that have died like many years ago, rather than focusing at the moment right now and connecting with the people right now of whom that are around you. You know, so, you know, this movie got me to think about a lot of different things, you know, and at the end of the movie, it ended up being that the operating system, they you know, the people within the operating, you know, that were the operators, or these operating systems, these OS people, they pretty much gathered together and pretty much like left their partners at the same time, forcing them to separate and learn to move on with their lives. And because that was what's healthy, you know. And then they ended up having to separate, and then he ended up calling his friend that was a real person and talking to that person, and then they ended up connecting in a way. So it's just like, you know, so it's just another example. It's just like, instead of like staying at home watching movies all day, or playing video games all day, to actually connect with other human beings, you know, that are real human beings, communicating with them, spending time with them. You know, that there's a certain beauty, you know, between real relationships that we cannot forget about. You know, and I think that movie is kind of bringing that, you know, to the forefront, to get you to analyze that and discover that right now, you know, rather than just being caught up in technology, and then next thing you know, you're just addicted. You know, you're addicted to video games, you're addicted to pornography, you're addicted to just watching movies all day, and you're not even communicating and relating with other human beings that are real. And that is something, you know, it could lead to a lot of sadness and depression. You know, I think that there needs to be a balance between technology and the way, the natural way, you know, the natural connection that we have with other humans, you know. And but that movie was one of the few movies that I've seen in recent times that could actually get you to analyze this life that we're living, you know, when it comes to internet and emails and text messaging and cell phones and movies and video games and, you know, dogs and cats and just all these things that are here to distract us from the real love that we could develop with real human beings. You know, I think that that is just irreplaceable from any of these objects or materialistic possessions, and you know, just all this technology out there. You know, I think the movie could definitely get you to see, you know what I mean? Because I think that a lot of people watch the movie and be like, think that something's wrong with this person's weird, or, you know, he's a freak, or he's just crazy. But if you start judging him in that manner, you gotta really analyze your own life and and how similar it is to what he's doing. You know, and I think there's a lot of similarities because there's a lot of people out there that are addicted to, you know, their cell phone. They're always on the cell phone. A lot of people are always, you know, addicted to text messaging. A lot of people addicted to the whole Facebook thing, you know, where they're always just like posting everything online about their lives and everything, and just like constantly, you know, out there, you know, being addicted to this technology and not really connecting with other human beings on a real level. I think everybody's guilty of that in modern society. So to point fingers at this person and laugh at him and say that, you know, there's something wrong with him, I don't think is the right thing. I think that this movie in a way is, you know, allowing us an opportunity to learn from his life and how we can you know, govern and live our lives, so then we can find like happiness, you know, with real relationships, and basically putting effort to relate to real human beings. I think is extremely important, um, rather than falling in love with an image that's not real. You know, for example, you know, people are so addicted to looking at these magazines and these videos, and they're like drooling over these people that are just images, but then they're not even focused on the people that are living right there, right then. A lot of these times these images aren't even real. These people may be dead, or the stuff is airbrushed and it's not even like the real thing, or they're just, you know, the technology is manipulated in a way where it's presenting you with things that are not even, you know, of reality. It's just all fantasy. You know, like it's like watching the movie Spider-Man or Batman and seeing all these computer-generated special effects, and that's not even real. And then just basically pushing those expectations onto reality is not something that is a good thing. You know, if we relate to the people around us, and we connect with people on a human-to-human level, we can live like more real and authentic lives. So definitely do recommend this movie. The movie is called Her, and it's a love story, and I think it's out there in the theaters. Um, and you know, definitely get you to think, and maybe learn a little something.